800-925-7584 for a free quote. This protection plan is at an all-time low in price. Drivers who activate the vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. So please call for your free quote, 800-925-7584, 800-925-7584. Hey, what do you have to lose? 800-925-7584.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed? Because only the Sleep Number Climate 360 smart bed lets you each sleep up to 13 degrees cooler or warmer on either side, while you both sleep at your ideal level of firmness, comfort, and support, your Sleep Number setting. And now our all-new next-gen smart beds have temperature benefits, so you sleep better night after night. And now, during our Veterans Day sale, save 40% on the Sleep Number Special Edition smart bed. Ends Monday. To learn more, go to sleepnumber.com.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Time now for the O'Reilly Update message of the day. On this Thursday, with Mike Pence waving goodbye to the presidential sweepstakes, only 5 Republicans remain credible in challenging Donald Trump for the Republican nomination. Let's analyze one by one. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has the resume, but lacks personal charisma and media awareness. He's running Florida pretty well, as evidenced by the multitudes of people moving there. At first, DeSantis seemed viable, but that has faded. He lacks the ability to engage folks on television, a vital campaign necessity. Former South Carolina governor and ambassador to the UN, Nikki Haley, does have a whiff of momentum because she's articulate and knowledgeable, no question. But she's also a bit imperious, word of the day, and not an avid culture warrior, imperative for the Republican nominee. Ambassador Haley would make a good VP selection. Vivek Ramaswamy fading, smart, maybe someday. Senator Tim Scott has not advanced at all. Chris Christie running on the nobody hates Trump more than me platform. Not his time, never will be his time. So Donald Trump really has no competition at this point. But Trump being Trump, anything could happen on Friday or Saturday or any day. It's who he is. The primaries begin in 2 months. Can you believe it? I'm Bill O'Reilly. I approve the message by writing it. You can reach me, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, Bill at BillO'Reilly.com, name and town if you wish to opine. All right, here is the mail. Sharon, we in the U.S. should be aware that there are hundreds of thousands of Muslims, maybe more, in our country right now, and more coming through the border every day. The dangers of Islam are here. No one's doing anything about it. Be tolerant, we are told. Tolerance hasn't gotten Israel anywhere, has it? Sharon, I have to disagree. Yes, we have hundreds of thousands of Muslims who are American citizens, and most of them are very fine people. Okay, and you want to punish them? Persecute them? No, that would not be right. It's not what we stand for here. Dangers of Islam. Okay, there's a radical element there that's dangerous. But what do you want? We have freedom of religion here. You want to ban Islam? But we got to step back. All right, the things we can do, things we can't do. We are a country that's supposed to be fair. Karen Angelo, Augusta, Georgia, what happened to all the college students that needed safe spaces because they feel threatened by supporters of Donald Trump? These demonstrations in support of Hamas are making Jewish students feel very unsafe. Good point. Yeah, Trump was good, but now they can, Hamas, okay. Oh, Rich Stevens, San Diego. Bill, you said lots of people do not like either party, so doesn't that make RFK Jr. Have a good chance to win? No. There's no way RFK Jr. is going to win because his support is built on anti-vax. So maybe he'll get 10%, maybe, but he's not going to win. In a moment, something you might not know. If you or your business is falling behind filing your tax returns, or if you owe more than $10,000 in back taxes to the IRS, please listen carefully. The Biden administration just unveiled an $80 billion plan to modernize the IRS and reduce the unpaid tax debt. Are you tired of the IRS letters, levies, liens, or wage garnishments? You do not have to face the IRS alone. Hire Anthem Tax Services. They can help you settle your delinquent tax problems and all collections, and may even be able to reduce your back taxes significantly. If Anthem Tax Service cannot reduce your current monthly payment with the IRS or state, or they don't put you in a better position, you might qualify for the 100% money back guarantee. Please call Anthem Tax Services 800-810-9193, 800-810-9193, 800-810-9193.
Hi, I'm Rodney Wallner.
And I'm Jen Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Jen, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission plan?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What's the best time to sell your home?
Right now, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
Now the O'Reilly Update brings you something you might not know. Today, millions of Roman Catholics around the world will pray for the souls of baptized Christians who died with unrepented sins. Here is the story of All Souls Day. It was first observed in the early 11th century by an order of French monks. According to Vatican theology, the souls of the faithfully departed who die without receiving last rites are denied immediate entry into heaven. Instead, they are dispatched to purgatory to seek purification. The duration of purgatory depends on the sin. Catholic doctrine states prayers from the living can help lessen the sentence. One Spanish theologian from the Middle Ages estimated the average person spends 1,000 to 2,000 years in purgatory, but how would that guy know? Each culture honors All Souls Day in its own way. In Central America, believers pray for the dead by flying thousands of gigantic kites. In Poland, the day is a somber affair. Most businesses close. Bus routes are canceled. Churches hold Mass 6 times in that day. Catholics in Bangladesh leave candles on tombstones to lure the soul from limbo. In Peru, parishioners hold picnics in cemeteries. Here in the USA, millions attend Mass and visit the graves of relatives. But the most famous celebration can be found in Mexico. On November 2nd, that country holds thousands of parades to mark Dia de Muertos, the Day of the Dead. And here's something else you might not know. All Souls Day rose in prominence after the First World War. Millions of Catholic soldiers across Europe perished on the battlefield without receiving the last rites. In 2017, Pope Francis honored the departed at the American Cemetery outside of Rome, where thousands of U.S. service members were buried during the liberation of Europe in World War II. Back after this. Everything is expensive these days, you know that. The government is printing trillions of dollars and consumer prices higher than ever. If the government continues its printing and spending, the dollar could continue its free fall and lose its coveted role as the world reserve currency. Let's hope that doesn't happen. But there are a few things you can do right now. American Hartford Gold can show you how to protect your money, your retirement, your hard-earned savings against inflation by helping you diversify a portion of your portfolio into physical gold and silver. Start with a short phone call, and they can have physical gold and silver delivered right to your door or put inside your 401k or IRA. So please call or text them right now. Tell them Bill O'Reilly sent you. Call 877-444-GOLD, 877-444-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. Again, that's 877-444-GOLD, or text GOLD to 65532. Thank you for listening to the O'Reilly Update. I am Bill O'Reilly. No spin, just facts, and always looking out for you.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNVS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
Israel in this moment, I'm ready to have that debate. But I did not attach that for political purposes, okay? I attached it because, again, we're trying to get back to the principle of fiscal responsibility here. And that was the easiest and largest pile of money that's sitting there for us to be able to pay for this immediate obligation.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the Senate will not consider what he calls the unserious House proposal. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken heading to Israel for talks over the Israel-Hamas war. Blinken says Israel has an obligation to both defend itself and protect civilians while doing so.
We will be talking about concrete steps that can and should be taken to minimize harm to men, women, and children in Gaza. And this is something that the United States is committed to. I'm not going to get into the details here, but it's very much on the agenda.
Meanwhile, Israeli troops are fighting with Hamas terrorists on the edges of Gaza City as the Palestinian death toll rises above 9,000. U.S. and Arab leaders are raising pressure on Israel to ease its siege and at least briefly halt its attacks in order to aid civilians. President Biden has suggested a humanitarian pause in the Gaza fighting to let in aid for Palestinians and let out foreign nationals. On Wall Street, a good day as the Dow was up by 564 points. The Nasdaq rose 232. More on these stories at townhall.com.
This November, Harry, God has chosen you to have a son, the King of all kings. The greatest story ever told is now an epic Christmas musical for the whole family.
You truly believe that this child is the chosen one. What is his name?
Jesus. Journey to Bethlehem. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. In theaters everywhere November 10. Soundtrack also available. Get tickets now at journeytobethlehem.com.
Relief Factor. Pain relief that's natural. Pain relief that works. And pain relief that attacks the source of the pain. That's the experience of tens of thousands of Americans while taking Relief Factor right now. See their incredible video endorsements at relieffactor.com and then order your 3-week quick starter pack for just $19.95. That's less than $1 a day. Find out if it can work for you like it works for me by ordering your 3-week quick starter pack today. Relieffactor.com, relieffactor.com. Be the next success story.
Russian artillery continues to batter southern Ukraine as more deaths are reported. Correspondent Karen Chamas reports.
Russian shelling has killed an 81-year-old woman in her own backyard and a 6-year-old man in southern Ukraine's Kherson region. Kherson is a strategic military region and a key gateway for Russia to the Crimean Peninsula. It is located on the Dnieper River, and unconfirmed reports suggest Ukrainian forces are gaining ground on the Russian side of the river. Ukraine's monthly...
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First alert for Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A clear night, but a chilly one. Low down to 43. That's close to normal, though. But we'll be above normal in the afternoon, a high of 65. Sunshine to start, but turning cloudy, especially by the evening. But it is going to be dry for your Friday. And then Saturday, a high of 67. Mainly a dry day. Late evening, like around 10 o'clock. And overnight, watch for a chance of a shower. It's about a 20% chance Saturday night. But then it's dry Sunday and a high of 69. High near 70 by Sunday. How nice is that? That's the latest First Alert 4 forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Hi, Sean Long for STL Fenceworks. STL Fenceworks is proud and excited to install American-made aluminum and vinyl fence products, as well as American-made decking. For instance, STL Fenceworks has teamed up with Jareth Manufacturing. Jareth invented the aluminum fence industry over 50 years ago. The Jareth product is wholly sourced and manufactured in the U.S., and STL Fenceworks is the third largest Jareth customer in the world. STL Fenceworks is vinyl fencing also, and not just white. We partner with National Vinyl Products to provide you with tan, clay, gray, and variegated wood grain vinyl fence products too, all made in the U.S. Not to be forgotten, STL Fenceworks is maintenance-free decking. STL Fenceworks is the #1 distributor of Wolf Cellular PVC in the Midwest, proudly manufactured in the U.S. and voted #1 maintenance-free decking product in the United States. Let STL Fenceworks make your outdoor space magical. Visit stlfenceworks.com today and learn how we can make your backyard dreams into a reality. At STL Fenceworks, your satisfaction is our passion.
Missouri Wild Alchemy is a local and family-owned business dedicated to providing consumers with high-quality cannabis and education. They strive to make customers feel comfortable and to help curtail the stigma of cannabis use by having a professional and well-educated staff. They're proud to carry products from several Missouri cultivators and manufacturers. Missouri Wild Alchemy, now serving recreational customers 21 and above, as well as patients. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram, or visit MissouriWild.com. That's MissouriWild.com.
Vincent's Jewelers can help you pick the best gift for someone special. Another reason I like Vincent's has helped raise more than $1.5 million for local charities. Vincent's, locally owned, serving the community more than 42 years. Whenever I'm asked, what's your favorite jewelry store? My only jeweler is Vincent's on Olive, east of 270. Give Vincent's a chance to make you happy. Check for daily specials. Vincent's Jewelers Facebook or vincentsjewelers.com.
The Vic Borselli Show.
What was your favorite audio clip you heard this week that Vic and Ken played? We'll go through them and spin the wheel of audio Friday at 10:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here?
As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
Good afternoon and welcome into the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. It is 4:07 in the p.m. Central Daylight Time. I realized this morning when I woke up that I would only be able to say that, well, once more this week, and then if I was doing a show on Saturday, that would be it because, don't forget, folks, we fall back on Saturday night, setting then clocks back. It's fun. I always feel like it's fun for one day. You get that extra hour of sleep, but then the next day you realize we've lost some more daylight. But we're in the season of light, truly. If you were listening to our broadcast here right when we hit the news at 4 p.m., like we do at the top of every hour, you would have heard shortly thereafter, I think, the first Christmas commercial that we played on the airwaves. So, shiver me timbers, yep, We're definitely in the next season. We're also in the next electoral season. I feel like we've kind of been in that since we just had the last one. But this will likely be from presidential down to the statewide elections we've got here in the state of Missouri. One of the biggest electoral kahunas that I've seen in my lifetime. I am Tim Jones. Chris Arps is out, as he's been out all this week. Producer Joey V, though, right here by my side, manning the wheels of steel and keeping track of Chris Arps as he wanders around the globe with his Chris Arps tracker. Where is the intrepid traveler these days, Joey? Do you have any idea?
Well, I know he's on a cruise ship aboard the Carnival Cruise Line, and they have 24-hour buffets. They have 24-hour pizza and ice cream. So
Are you
worried
kidding me?
about this guy.
Again, why are we not there?
I don't know, but when we do the show, we can't have a break without him immediately running to the candy bowl as soon as we go to commercial.
So are you terrified for the longevity of these buffets?
I know they have a gym on those boats, but I don't think Chris visited that part of the ship. That guy's got a sweet tooth, and we know it.
Oh, man. Chris, we're talking about you because we love you. And we miss you. It is weird. I feel like, Joey, all week I felt like this studio has kind of been a kilter, because I feel like when he's here, we are perfectly balanced. Chris is at that end of the table. I'm at this end of the table. You're right in the middle. But now, when Jean was here yesterday, we had Jean Evans co-hosting with me yesterday, which was wonderful. She was great. We got a lot of compliments about that. Thank you all. Yesterday, I was like, okay, we're back on the even keel. And now I kind of feel like we need ballast down there or something because we're off a bit. So.
Yeah, radio stations, at least these studios, super well built back in the day.
Oh my goodness,
very within the feng shui vibe because there is not a right angle in this place.
That's
it's just better for sound and stuff. But without
that's
Chris,
correct.
Our feng shui was a little off.
Yep. So we'll have him back. Of course we will.
We accept all Chris's though.
That's
if we can find another one to fill in, we'll do it.
Well, guess what? We have one waiting for us. That's a perfect segue. We've got a ton of guests besides our next one, who is named Chris as well. We're going to get to Chris DeGaulle here in just a couple moments. Hang right there. He is, of course, he does all things Herzog Foundation related, including being the host of an excellent podcast, Making the Leap. After our conversation with Chris DeGaulle, we're going to speak with Dakota Wood. Man, are these the life and times to be speaking with Dakota Wood, the Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation. We're going to talk to him about everything going on in Israel, between Russia, Ukraine, and ever-rising and encroaching China, and so much more. Lots to speak to Dakota Wood about at 4:25. The Speaker's Stump Speech at 5:07. I do have a title for that. Let me pull that up quickly here. I got to get back to today. Here we go. Choosing the IRS over Israel. Who do you think's doing that these days? Choosing the IRS over Israel. That'll be at 5:07, the Speaker's Stump Speech. And at 5:25, man, we are chock full from end to end and top to bottom. Larry Behrens, Communications Director for Power the Future. I have seen a ton of energy-related matters crossing my email inbox these days and up on the news wires, and so I thought it was high time to bring back Larry Behrens. He hosts one of our shows on the weekends here appropriately called Power Punch, and so we'll be talking about, the biggest story. You folks have heard about this, right? The massive, when left-wing liberal ideas crash and burn like the Hindenburg, which all of them do eventually, do you notice how nobody on ABC, CBS, NBC, PBS, MSNBC, CNN, the Huffington Post, the Los Angeles Times, New York Times, the Washington Post, I could go on and on. None of them ever talk about it, right? Like, so you have this giant inferno crashing and burning and blowing up with multiple successive explosions. And what I'm talking about this time is the New Jersey wind farm failure. This thing is a multi-billion-dollar failure, and I bet you won't hardly hear a peep about it on all the networks I just mentioned. Larry's covering it from top to bottom. He'll talk to us about that. The ever failing energy agenda of the Biden administration. All right. Circling back all the way back up to the top, let's speak now to our first guest of the show and the hour, Chris DeGaulle, member of All Things Herzog Foundation and host of the podcast Making the Leap. We're also going to talk about some great stuff on the Lion online publication, readlion.com. Chris, good afternoon. Welcome back to News Talk STL.
Tim, it's always a pleasure, and I have to confess, I was listening to everything you have coming up, and all I can think about now is a pizza buffet. So
I know you lost us at pizza buffet. Yeah, exactly.
I think he's got the better end of the bargain on that one today, Tim.
Yes, yeah, I think he does. We're just jealous. That's why we're poking fun at him. So, Chris, it's great to have you with us today. And one of the first things I wanted to kick off with is the fact that the Herzog Foundation is, and there's definitely some irony in this, given what we're seeing in a lot of places that purport to be education establishments. The Herzog Foundation is doing something in support of Israel. Huh, look at that. You know, as opposed to what we're seeing all over the nightly news, the Herzog Foundation is going to be hosting Israeli Defense Forces veteran Yuri Goldflam for a pro-Israel event on November the 16th. Boy, we got a lot to unpack there. Chris, tell us, first of all, who is Yuri Goldflam? Why should we care?
Yeah, Yuri is he's a friend of the foundation. He has, as you mentioned, extensive experience with the IDF as a veteran, and you know, sadly, unfortunately, he's been on the ground when Hamas attacks his nation. He's flying directly from Tel Aviv to Missouri to be a part of our evening on November 16th, and so his mission, his goal, to be perfectly honest with you, I thought we were going to sit down and do sort of a moderator Q&A. I was going to ask him questions. He'd answer questions. Yuri says, listen, I know exactly what I want to talk about. I know exactly what you folks need to hear about what's going on, so stand aside. So I'm going to be there listening, and you're welcome to attend if it's not too far out of the way here at the Herzog Foundation headquarters on Thursday, November 16th. We hope you'll come. It's an open invitation to anybody that can make it, because Yuri wants to come share the story of not only what the IDF has been through, what they're dealing with now as a veteran. Of course, he's watching from the outside, but of course, as an Israeli, as a citizen, he wants people to hear the truth. And it's just, as you point out, not one we're getting a lot from mainstream media right now.
Yes, and if I can make it over for that, I absolutely will. I would encourage people. The Herzog Foundation, first of all, has a beautiful facility over in Smithville, Missouri, near Kansas City, and you've hosted a ton of incredibly of intellectual giants and very important people over the last few months. So this will be yet another in that series that you've been hosting.
And all
over
free, by the way.
Yes,
I should mention,
all
Tim.
free,
totally free to you if you want to come. Just got to go to our website, herzogfoundation.com, and click under events, and you can get registered.
Chris, are you disturbed about what you are seeing on college campuses in regards to the Israeli-Hamas war and the sheer numbers of people that simply don't choose to live, don't choose or don't know the reality that we live in, the world where there is not in every situation, there's some gray, there's often some gray and some nuance, but in this situation of Israel versus Hamas, they don't seem to understand there's the good guys and good ladies, and then there's the bad ones in this situation.
Yeah, Tim, we live in a weird time, and I'm sure you saw this Harvard-Harris poll that came out earlier in the week. It said that young people, 18 to 25-year-olds, some staggering percentage of them, and I forget now, but it was far too high, don't even believe Hamas attacked Israelis on October 7th. Literally don't believe it happened. Think it was made up entirely. It's just staggering. Now, the rest of the country and other demographics overwhelmingly support Israel and understand the evil, but something has happened, and I'm going to say that something is largely a poor public education, that you got a lot of young people that have moved on to higher education, and they continue with this blind bigotry. There's no other way to say it, and it's fomenting and growing at an alarming rate. I'm sure you saw Yale, it's at readlion.com right now, our homepage, our website. Yale had to retract. This is the most amazing thing. Yale student newspaper had to retract their original editorial that said Israel really hadn't produced enough evidence that Hamas attacked them at all.
Mm-hmm.
And this went to print, Tim. I mean, and anybody with a cursory Google search or go on YouTube, for heaven's sakes, Hamas put videos up bragging about their attack on October 7th. So, yeah, it's gone off the rails with young people.
And, Chris, they obviously don't believe things that are known in reality because of something, right? It's because of some brainwashing or propaganda that they're receiving. And, unfortunately, we have to look no further than our own home front, right? Like, these folks aren't tuning – I don't think most of these folks are tuning into the Middle East radio or TV or getting, the evening Cutter news, right? They're getting it from the home front here, which is even more disturbing, isn't it?
It is, and it's an outgrowth of this kind of Marxist ideology that teaches kids, and it's not exclusive to Israelis. It's certainly, we hear the same thing about, right, the white colonialist founders of the United States. They like to throw us in the same stew. Our white founders were oppressors, just like Israelis are oppressors, and our young people in this country, particularly in public education, are coming up with this understanding that if you're white and Israeli, or you're white and American, you're instantly, upon sight, an oppressor. And anything and everything that you have had done to you, you had coming. And if you're minding your own business, you're likely guilty of oppression. So it's a toxic ideology and self-hatred. It's almost hard to explain. I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to watch. My kids aren't in college yet, but it horrifies me to think they would ever go off to a school and join this cult groupthink of bigotry, but it seems to be enveloping kids pretty quickly.
Boy, I hear you on that. And, as you correctly point out, it comes from K through 12 government school indoctrination, where they're getting indoctrinated instead of educated. It comes from our higher education and public and private universities at the higher education level. But Chris, it also comes, they're also learning it from, or maybe they're just working in collusion, as one political party used to like to say, with each other, with the what we would call the national media, the industrial media complex. Because Chris, the example would be that bombing of that hospital in Gaza. Immediately, it seemed like those on the center-left side of the national media, which is unfortunately the lion's share of them, most of them, they ran with the story that Israel was responsible for the bombing. And then when they were pressed on it, we're like, well, where'd you get this? Well, Hamas reported, that was their response. Well, Hamas said, it's like, well, the problem is your source. And so, that's a problem too, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. When you at least don't vet it, I think the New York Times ran a very similar editorial as that Yale student newspaper. We have no real hard evidence to back up that the hospital was, hit by Hamas, and Israel is literally showing them the video. I mean, you can't do more than actually show pictures and video, and we're to a place now where ideology is so ingrained, Tim, that people don't, they damn your lying eyes, as they say. I don't believe literally what I'm seeing because my ideology is that potent. Mm-hmm. It's kind of mentally disturbed, quite frankly.
It really is. Folks, we're speaking to Chris Stigall, who's a member of the Herzog Foundation, host of the podcast Making the Leap, and also a prognosticator on all things on their online source, readlion.com. Chris, before we leave this topic, once again, tell our audience about this event that's coming up featuring Israeli Defense Forces veteran Yuri Goldflam that is going to be at the Herzog Foundation. Give us the where, the what, the when, etc.
Yeah, you bet. I appreciate that. I really do hope. I know for maybe a lot of folks in your immediate listening area, it might be a bit of a drive, but if you mark your calendar now and make some plans, we'd love to have you. It's Thursday, November 16th, here at our headquarters, the Herzog Foundation in Smithville, Missouri. Not far at all from KCI, or MCI, if you call it, Kansas City International Airport. We're not terribly far from there at all. So if you happen to be on this side of the state, we'd love to have you and host you. It's a free event. Yuri is, again, he's an Israeli Defense Forces veteran. He's an Israeli, and he will quite literally be leaving Tel Aviv and coming directly here to the foundation, where he will give us his eyewitness firsthand account of not only what it is to live in Israel at this hour, also to have served with the IDF. And it will be one of the few times, I think, you will have unfettered access to someone who is in the know and hear it directly from them, not through a filter. But that's what we strive to do here at the foundation, is bring people in who will speak to the audience directly, and you can engage and ask questions. It's going to be a great night. So again, it's a free registration, free attendance, Thursday, November 16th. Just go to herzogfoundation.com, click on events, and you can get signed up.
And Chris, before we let you go, I do want to leave our audience with a bit of good news. There is some leadership in our country that recognizes that there are two sides in this situation. There is good and there is evil. There's a good and the bad. That happens to be Governor Glenn Youngkin. Chris, I see that at readlion.com that he has issued an executive directive to combat targeting of religious and ethnic groups. What are the details here?
Boy, he's been hitting it out of the park, too. Glenn Youngkin, he rode into the governor's mansion, as you know, on not only free speech, but school choice. And he ran hard against government-run schools when his opponent and the teachers' unions were all throwing in against him. In fact, I think it was Terry McAuliffe who said that parents couldn't be trusted to teach their own children. So Youngkin wins and becomes governor of Virginia simply because he believes in educational diversity and freedom of thought. And so keeping with that theme here during his brief tenure, this executive directive to fortify the state's response to attacks on religious and ethnic groups. And, that goes across the board. I mean, to be clear, it's not just exclusively toward those of the Jewish faith. It's toward Muslims, too. And let's not forget, by the way, Christians. I don't think I have to tell you and anybody who's of faith in your audience, the folks, our Jewish friends, are not the only ones who have experienced and are experienced soft or overt bigotry. So this is something, no matter your faith, you should applaud a governor who says, no, we're going to stand resolute. We're going to stamp this out. We won't tolerate it anywhere it's found.
Could not agree more. And I think we're going to hear lots more from Glenn Youngkin in the months and years ahead. We'll hear more from Chris Stegall in a week or so when he joins us once again here. Chris, thanks so much for joining us. Folks, in the meantime, jump on herzogfoundation.com, readlion.com as well for more great information and more along the lines of what we discussed here today. Chris, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thanks for joining us once again here on News Talk STL.
My pleasure. I hope Chris brings back some pizza to warm up, at least some leftovers or something. We'll see you next time.
That makes at least three of us. Yeah, here for sure. All right, we'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
Thank you, friend.
Okay, thank you as well. Chris Stegall there with the Herzog Foundation, a great group. Look, they are they're based in Smithville, Missouri, over by Kansas City, but they are regional and, dare I say, national in their scope and in their mission. So get to know them because they become our good friends, and we hope they become yours as well. All right. We're going to shift gears here now, and, in a way, we're going to stay on some of these topics and continue to talk about what is going on between Israel and Hamas. What should the United States' responsibility, role, and mission be in regards to this conflict? And what about the latest funding bills coming out of the U.S. House, which seem to be suggesting, under the new Speaker Mike Johnson, we're going to take each of these issues as they come and stop creating these ominous buses, these omnibuses, spending measures. All right, we'll be back with Dakota Wood and more right after this here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at 101.9 94.1 New.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps, driving the leftist crazy all afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First alert for Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A clear night, but a chilly one. Low down to 43. That's close to normal, though. But we'll be above normal in the afternoon, a high of 65. Sunshine to start, but turning cloudy, especially by the evening. But it is going to be dry for your Friday. And then Saturday, a high of 67. Mainly a dry day. Late evening, like around 10 o'clock and overnight. Watch for a chance of a shower. It's about a 20% chance Saturday night. But then it's dry Sunday and a high of 69. High near 70 by Sunday. How nice is that? That's the latest First Alert 4 forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The news and talk that affects St. Louis.
They've made a mistake of historic proportions. We will exact a price that will be remembered for decades to come.
This is 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey, Chris Arps here telling you about my bank, Royal Banks of Missouri. Royal Banks has been around since 1964. They are locally owned and operated. They're not some big impersonal out-of-state bank. Royal has 17 convenient locations, including in St. Charles, Hannibal, Granite City, and Jerseyville, Illinois. Royal Bank has 200 ATMs across the Midwest, so you can access your money when you need it. Whether you need home loans, wealth management, auto loans, or checking or savings account, Royal Banks Missouri has you covered. Visit Royal Banks online at royalbanksmo.com, royalbanksmo.com. Royal Banks of Missouri, the community bank that is in your community.
So, you want Steph's Pizza, but you're in Lake St. Louis and it's just too far to go. Not anymore. Now you can feed that Steph's Pizza craving quickly and conveniently in Lake St. Louis. Same great menu with a new location. 111 Pond Fort Trail in Lake St. Louis. Steph's Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley on Long Road, in St. Peters on Jungerman, and now in Lake St. Louis. Check them out at stephspizza.com because tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
Hi, it's Todd Showalter along with my buddy Joey V from The Right Mind Show. Say hi, Joey.
No thanks.
Join us every Saturday at 5 p.m. when we put the fun in our dysfunctional world. Want to add anything, Joey?
Oh, no thank you.
Plus, exciting guest and King Kirby from DiscountCoffee.com. Take us out, Joey.
Get Jim Modulin to do it.
Putting the fun in our dysfunctional world. It's The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL. Now, the Onder Prescription with Dr. Bob Onder.
I'm Dr. Bob Onder. We're all familiar with wasteful spending in Washington, D.C., where our federal debt has ballooned to over $33 trillion, $100,000 for every man, woman, and child in the U.S. But many are not familiar with the spending blowouts that have come out of Jefferson City. In the last 5 years, the state budget has soared from $27 billion to over $50 billion. This spending has included millions for private sports stadiums, expansion of Medicaid, food stamps, and TANF welfare checks. A $30 million experimental meat laboratory, whatever that is, and even a dinosaur museum. Fortunately, the governor vetoed the dinosaur museum. Meanwhile, a report from 2018 showed $1 billion in waste in the state Medicaid program, and to date, nothing has been done about it. Missouri Republicans have been given large supermajorities in state government. It's time to get our house in order. I'm Dr. Bob, and that's my prescription.
Find more Dr. Bob Onder at bobondermo.com. This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL.
I think we've talked about this before, Colleen. I mean, we're really not just talking about like one pause. What we're trying to do is explore the idea of as many pauses as might be necessary to continue to get aid out and to continue to work to get people out safely, including hostages.
Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show. Should that be how we're working with the Israelis in their war against Hamas? Well, we've got the guy on the line right now who can answer that question and so much more.
Dakota Wood, Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation.
So this is just releasing people by this administration into the United States in the thousands. It's unconscionable, I believe. I mean, I just don't know how anybody in the White House can step in front of a bunch of reporters with a straight face and say the things that they're saying.
As he does every Thursday afternoon around this time, Dakota Wood of the Heritage Foundation joining us once again here at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL. Dakota, good afternoon to you. Our buddy Chris Arps is somewhere on assignment in the wild Sargasso Sea, so he's not with us today, but we're glad that you decided to join us.
I think you sent him over to Israel to destroy some of those tunnels in Gaza. That's what I think. You put him on a secret mission.
Somebody needs to, that's for sure. So, Dakota, you know, that Kirby clip that I played coming in, I have a question for you about that. Dakota, it's bad enough when our politicos get involved in war fighting with our nation and our commander-in-chief and our military. It seems like it would be even worse for us to be telling another nation's military how to fight this war. I mean, what's he talking about? A series of ceasefires? I mean, we just need to stand back and let the IDF do what they need to do, don't we?
Yeah, the White House seems to have a problem acting with certainty and clarity and with a unified direction. You know, they're always trying to kind of play the middle ground. They are certainly aware of the growing pushback by much of the Muslim world, protests that I'm sure you've covered already, talking about the growing body count and the images coming out of Gaza due to Israel's response to Hamas. And so there's a growing nervousness in the White House about the implications for the United States. Do we have kind of a homegrown terrorism sort of thing? What are our relationships with countries like Jordan and Lebanon and Saudi Arabia and others? And so they're trying to gently make this case that to allow more humanitarian aid in, to allow hostages and the wounded out, to try to influence Israel to pull back on its assault. And yet at the same time, they talk about Israel having every right to defend itself, that it's going to chart its own course, that Hamas needs to be destroyed and eliminated. Well, how do you square those two, right? How do you keep the pressure on Hamas? Hamas has brought this onto Gaza. The Gaza people, Gazans, in their support for Hamas, have brought this onto themselves. The true innocents here are children who have no say in the matter. But every gallon of fuel that's in Gaza, all the medical supplies, foodstuffs, all that stuff is what Hamas is using. They continue to hide within the Gazan population and continue to execute strikes against Israel. So what is Israel supposed to do? You know, if you let up, it enables Hamas to rearm itself, to rest, to reposition, and to create more booby traps and ambush sites. So it's a lack of clarity on the part of the White House, and I think they're trying to have it both ways.
You know, Dakota, in order to I have a separate question regarding Hamas, but let's stay right here in Gaza here for a second. Dakota, this is not going to be something that's going to be resolved quickly, is it? If they're going to, quote, clear Hamas out of the Gaza Strip with everything that we know exists there, an incredible underground infrastructure that would probably withstand, you know, in any type of normal munitions, this is going to be a protracted campaign that could take months, maybe years, right?
There's over 300 miles of tunnels. The Israelis have said that they have destroyed about 100 tunnels, but not linear distance. I mean, 100 tunnels of 300 miles worth of tunnels. You know, what is that? They're trying to destroy the exits or the openings to the tunnels and then collapse the tunnels inside to get at the terrorists to continue to use them to hide and to move around and to prosecute attacks. Unfortunately, it's most likely where a lot of the hostages are being kept as well. They've introduced robots into these things to try to, one, save Israeli soldiers, but get a better idea as to what might be seen in there before they actually use a demolition to detonate this. So to your point about this not being a quick resolution at any time soon, I agree with you completely. You have senior leaders of Hamas that continue to say things like, we will repeat October 7th as many times as needed in order to eliminate or to destroy Israel. So if you're Israel, I mean, how do you take that at face value? I mean, do you let up, or do you say, okay, game on? And for the Israelis, this is a war of survival.
Yeah, Dakota, I said something yesterday several times. I said, you know, at some point, Dakota, the Biden administration, all the folks who are pushing back against what Israel is or is not properly doing, some point, Dakota, we got to take terrorists at their word, right? When terrorists say that they're here to commit terrorism, we kind of just need to accept that and move on, right?
Every individual I can think of, whether it was Mao, Hitler, Pol Pot, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, they've all written out, you know, their big manifestos in terms of what they want to achieve and how they want to achieve it. So if you're Iran and Hamas, Hezbollah and others, and you have written into your constitution the objective of destroying Israel, it makes sense to take them at their word, right? And it's been decades now that Israel has suffered suicide bombers, rocket attacks, missile attacks, kidnappings, assassinations from these individuals. I mean, if Hamas was really concerned about the Palestinians, they would share their fuel and food and medical supplies. They could stop launching rockets at Israel, right? They could, in other words, surrender. But if you think back to World War II, the Nazis weren't giving up. The Japanese Imperial Army and Navy weren't giving up. And the Allies pressed for unconditional surrender, the complete destruction of the enemy force, compelling them, right, to give up when they could no longer fight. And so that's what Israel is doing with Hamas, because Hamas, now together supported by Hezbollah and groups out of Syria, continue to launch attacks against Israel. Tomorrow we're waiting on Hassan Nasrallah, who is the head of Hezbollah, to make a major speech. And everybody is kind of waiting to see if he introduces Hezbollah into a full-on war and whether that commits the country of Lebanon, which would open up a major second front for Israel to deal with.
Speaking to Dakota Wood, he's our guest here today on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Dakota is a senior research fellow for defense programs at the Heritage Foundation. Heritage.org for all things heritage. Dakota, I'm glad you expanded the scope out a bit because that's exactly where I was going. Dakota, if you could help me give our listeners a sense of the breadth and scope of this region and the incredible complexities involved. There was an interchange today between the intrepid Peter Doocy and the aforementioned John Kirby during a briefing today at the White House where Doocy pressed Kirby on this issue of Qatar. And I know people say it Qatar, Qatar. I've heard it pronounced different ways. So, so this nation, we have a very, as we do with a lot of these nations in this area, Dakota, we have a very complicated relationship, to put it mildly, with Qatar, right? And the problem is, on one hand, Qatar is allegedly assisting us with some of these hostage releases and negotiations. Right. On the other hand, to Peter Doocy's point that he was pressing Kirby on, they are sheltering the Hamas elite, right? They're sheltering the Hamas oligarchs and leaders. So Doocy's going, what sense does that make, and should that be a problem? And Kirby really never answered the question, but it is something we got to keep in mind, isn't it?
Yeah, these Arab countries, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia. Do you remember the last time anybody bought a refrigerator, made by these countries? I mean, the answer is no. The only thing they sell is oil, energy, and financial services, right? So they are very aware of the market that they have. If you look at where Qatar is at there in the Persian Gulf, to the north and east a little bit is the country of Iran. So there's a heavy influence on Iranian activity and political influences, and yet Qatar is also connected to Saudi Arabia. So they've got Persian, Shia, Muslim, Iranians on one side, and they have Arab, Sunni Muslims, Saudi Arabia on the other side. So they have to kind of be aware of where their own public is at in terms of domestic discord or passivity, and how their revenue gets in. The United States enjoys access to a massive air base in that country. And so if things went sideways and we got kicked out, diplomatic relations went bad, you would lose that facility, which gives us access with air power into that entire region. So that, that national security interest, military access, is a big deal about why people kind of walking carefully through this Hamas leadership living in Qatar, and yet the Qataris helping us with intelligence and negotiations because they speak with the Muslim Brotherhood, of which Hamas is an offshoot. And the Muslim Brotherhood is huge in Egypt, which is on the south side of Israel. So this very complicated map, if somebody brought that up, you've got Israel in a really difficult neighborhood with Lebanon and Syria to its north, Jordan, which just pulled their diplomatic representation out of Israel and told the Israeli consulate official to stay out of the country, to its east. Saudi Arabia is not that far away, and then Egypt is to the south and the west. So Israel is ringed by all of these Arab countries. Intermixed with that, Shia, Iranian-backed or sponsored Shia terrorist groups and the U.S. is trying to figure out who to talk to influence the behavior of Hamas. And I know it sounds hugely complicated, but that's just the nature of that region, and it goes back centuries.
Mm-hmm. It sure does, and it sure is. Dakota, one final question for you came from one of our listeners who gave us a ring earlier today and asked me to remember to ask you. And basically his question is, now that the U.S. is into paying off terrorists, do we all have a ransom on our own heads? And I think one of the things I think he was referring to was this notion that some in the Biden administration and on the left here in the U.S., they keep saying, "Oh, but we need to make sure all this humanitarian aid, gets into Gaza." And I'm thinking to myself, that would be like resupplying the Germans behind enemy lines in the 19th. Well, let's make sure the SS is well fed as we're invading them. And secondly, Dakota, I'm not providing anyone anything until those 500 or more Americans are back here on home soil. What say you about that complicated situation?
Yeah, well, there's still hostages being held by Hamas. We know that are American citizens. To your point, there's 400 or 500 Americans or dual citizenship nationals living in Gaza. Some of them have gotten through that southern border checkpoint with Egypt, but we were trying to get more out as well. It just breaks your heart when you see children, young women, in such a dire set of situations. But I love the historical analogies that all the things that we had to do to defeat the Japanese military, firebombing Tokyo, all the aerial attacks that went into that country as American forces got closer to force the emperor and the Japanese military to capitulate. And then on the European side, the horrors that attended all of the battles that took place across France and Germany as you were moving into those capitals. So that's one of the really horrible things about war is all the innocent civilian people who get caught in the midst of that. And yet if you allow your enemy to use the civilians as shields and not go after them, then you're allowing the enemy to continue to prosecute their own war. And to this bit about humanitarian assistance, boy, wouldn't you want to get medicine and bandages and high protein foods and stuff into these poor people that's in a war ravaged area? But Hamas has shown a few decades now of consistent behavior of siphoning off a lot of that. I mean, they're sitting on hundreds of thousands of gallons of fuel in their own private storage tanks and not sharing that with local hospitals and aid organizations that are attending the Gazan people. So, I mean, what does that tell you about Hamas?
Mm-hmm,
and it's just, again, it's one of these very unfortunate, ugly aspects of actual warfare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nothing about war is fun, and It's incredibly horrible indeed. But this is the situation in which Israel and the U.S. now finds itself. Dakota Wood, Senior Research Fellow for Defense Programs at the Heritage Foundation, heritage.org, our guest here this afternoon, as he is every Thursday around this time. Dakota, thanks so much, as always, for the incredible insight and analysis. Always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend, and we'll look forward to talking to you next week.
Hey, take care, and God bless.
You too as well. There he is, the great Dakota Wood. Fantastic. Man, I feel like we need to take a deep breath and regroup after that. Hey, if you'd like to give us a call to weigh in on either of those first two discussions we had with Chris Stegall of the Herzog Foundation or with Dakota Wood from the Heritage Foundation, we'd love to hear from you next. 314-912-1019 is the number here. 314-912-1019. The Speaker Stump Speech, as I mentioned, coming up at 5:07, choosing the IRS over Israel. Who's doing that? I bet you're all, making a pretty educated guess on that. I'll disclose those details at 5:07 and talk to you next here on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show at 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Follow Tim Jones on Twitter at Speaker Tim Jones.
President Biden polls right up there with Bud Light.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center,
the First Alert for Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A clear night, but a chilly one. Low down to 43. That's close to normal, though. But we'll be above normal in the afternoon, a high of 65. Sunshine to start, but turning cloudy, especially by the evening. But it is going to be dry for your Friday. And then Saturday, a high of 67. Mainly a dry day. Late evening, like around 10 o'clock and overnight. Watch for a chance of a shower. It's about a 20% chance Saturday night. But then it's dry Sunday and a high of 69. High near 70 by Sunday. How nice is that? That's the latest First Alert 4 forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Free speech is alive and well in America.
Thanks for taking my call.
Right here.
You know what's going on?
To have our great awakening.
You see through the smoke screen.
It's cool to be woke. News Talk STL. Until it's not. News, analysis, opinion.
Everybody wants the economy to grow, right? But how do you feel about officials in effect giving your tax money to developers for their private projects? In the past 15 years, the city of St. Louis alone has diverted $709 million to developers in tax subsidies or abatements. That was money that would have gone to basic services like schools and public safety. Even worse, numerous studies around the country show these kinds of subsidies don't produce the promised jobs and growth. There's nothing wrong with developers wanting to build new shopping centers or company headquarters, but why should they get tax subsidies to do so? If it's a good business idea, great, but let them assume the risks as well as any possible rewards. It's time to reform economic development subsidies in Missouri. Check out our 2023 Missouri Blueprint, moving Missouri forward at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
Getting a new floor for your home can be intimidating and a little scary, but that's not the case when you go to Michael's Flooring Outlet. Katie here, and my mom and dad used Michael's, and they had a great experience. They've been a locally owned and operated family business for more than 30 years. You want variety? Michael's has carpet, hardwood, laminate, ceramic tile, luxury vinyl, natural stone, and many other options. Shop in-store at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Dardine Prairie, or St. Peters. Check out everything that Michael's has to offer at igotfloored.com.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stiefel. Contact your Stiefel financial advisor at stiefel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
Over and over. Keep pressing rewind, but I'm getting older.
It's been kind of disturbing to us. I've heard Democrats suggest that there needs to be a ceasefire. Let us be clear. We've been very clear about this. There was a ceasefire. It was before October 7th, and Hamas broke it. And Israelis suffered unspeakable acts of evil, as you've heard even recounted here this morning. Israel doesn't need a ceasefire. It needs its allies to cease with the politics and deliver support now. And that's what we're doing. House Republicans plan to do that. We're going to do it in short order, and it provides Israel the aid it needs to defend itself, free its hostages, and eradicate Hamas, which is a mission that must be accomplished.
That is Speaker Mike Johnson in the U.S. House, and I tell you, I bet the Democrats are sitting there chewing their cud every day, realizing, you know, we probably were better off as Democrats under Speaker McCarthy. This guy is he's the great conservative Satan. No, he's actually just a Bible-believing, good Christian American is what he is. You know, it's funny that people like Jen Psaki on her program last week and AOC and the Squad and the other leftists and Corinne Jean-Pierre, they're more terrified of the New Testament theocracy of Speaker Mike Johnson. You know, the guy who says, you know, it's all right there in the good book, you know, love your neighbor as yourself. That's the theocracy that offends them and terrifies them. Love your neighbor as yourself. They're more with the ancient old world theocracy of an eye for an eye, a death for a death, or maybe, 10,000 deaths for a death that the theocracy of Iran, Hamas, and Hezbollah preaches. Yeah, that's the theocracy that they'd rather, get in bed with. And, sorry for the horrible analogy, but, that's just the truth of it. And, as if on cue to us playing that sound clip and to wrap up my discussion with Dakota Wood, National Review Daily just puts out their evening alert. And the headline is, they must have been listening to the program, as they often are. Joe Biden caves on Israel. Biden's call for a ceasefire by another name is a capitulation to the loudest voices on his party's extreme left flank. Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly the point we've been making here. And just like in World War II, I keep talking about World War II like it was the golden days of yesteryear, and everybody was on the same page and was all one big kumbaya. I think eventually it was. I think eventually, people got largely on board. But, there were naysayers back in the day back then. There were people in the highest seats of government. Look, you had Chamberlain over in the UK, and honestly, FDR had to be dragged a little bit kicking and screaming to the war effort. You had appeasers and you had Jew haters and anti-Semites in this country as well. And so now we just live in this 24/7 cable news social media cycle where we're just deluged with it nonstop. And I know sometimes it feels overwhelming, but back then, it wasn't all rainbows and puppy dogs and Rosie the Riveters, right? I'm sure there were naysayers and the anti-war people, which is fine. You can be anti-war, but be consistent in your anti-war rhetoric. I don't know. Were there Nazi sympathizers here on our shores? There might have been. There probably was. It's just kind of shocking to see it in real life, in real time, right? Because we said after that period where the whole world bore the blame in some respect, because the U.S. did get a little bit late into the Great War. We all said never again, right? No matter where you were when the war started, by the end, when the concentration camps were discovered, and if you want to see something that really brings that home to you, I wasn't around back then. My parents had just been born. Both my grandfathers served in the Great War in theater. But, it's hard to understand the horror of it until you see it, and it's hard to see something that occurred that long ago. Band of Brothers, the HBO miniseries. I'm just imagining that they captured it because it seemed like they got it right to me. I'd have to speak to somebody more of that generation. I know a lot of that generation are largely gone now, but it seemed to me like they got it right. And what they got right was the absolute horror of what the Nazis did to the Jewish people in that part of the world. That's what we say never again to. And now there's kids, ignorant kids, on college campuses, and probably some that should know better, who probably have cracked a history book or two, who are taking the side of the theocracy, of the totalitarian theocracy of Iran, of the mullahs, of Hamas and Hezbollah. Because that's what you mean when you say from the river to the sea. All right, Gene's hanging on patiently. Let's bring him into the conversation. Gene, good afternoon. Welcome to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. You're on the air.
Hey, Speaker Tim. How are you? Thanks for taking my call. Your last several commentaries there took the words right out of my mouth. Good job, as usual. But it's amazing. I was listening to Katie and Colombo earlier. How many Republicans decided not to censure Tlaib? It's what's going on with this? That's actually kind of chilling when you think about it. What say you?
I agree, Gene. If we're not going to censor her for wanting to, if we're not going to censor a congresswoman for being part and parcel of the movement that wants to commit the eradication of Israel, I guess we won't ever censor anyone for anything, right? Then it's a meaningless motion in my mind.
That's exactly right. And then too, thanks for putting my question up to Dakota Wood. I was thinking about Chris and Becky traveling and all, and it's like, you kind of wonder in the back of your head how much of a target you are for wearing, in a sense, a money bag on your back for some wacko to suck you up and let Uncle Sam bargain with you, see how much money you're going to get for the person you're hanging on to.
We live in Dangerous times in a dangerous world. And boy, Dakota, you're right. I heard Dan Bongino talking about that kind of subject, traveling, the other day, and how he traveled so much to dozens of countries as a Secret Service agent. And he said every time he came home, he said you wanted to kiss the tarmac below your feet. So, yeah, we do live in the greatest country on the planet, Gene, and I think we often forget that, especially the younger generations. Gene, thanks so much for calling. Appreciate you very much. All right, very good. Gene, thanks to you for calling. When we come back, the Speaker's stump speech, choosing the IRS over Israel. Who's doing that? Why? And why is it wrong? 1019-941 News Talk STL.
Hey, Tony Colombo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
Get charged up on the truth. Power Punch with Larry Behrens.
Everyone's talking about the $6 billion Joe Biden sent to Iran just about a month ago. As well they should be. But did you know he has opened up the money flow to Tehran for well over a year? He doesn't want to talk about it, but we will.
Power Punch with Larry Behrens. Saturday afternoons at 4 on News Talk STL.
Get more Power Punch at powerthefuture.com.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-989-1415. 800-989-1415. 800-989-1415. That's 800-989-1415. Paid for by Term Direct.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019-941 and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Keith Peters reporting. The White House says 74 more U.S. citizens have left the Gaza Strip as the nearly 4-week-old Israel-Hamas war rages on. White House correspondent Greg Clugston reports.
The National Security Council's John Kirby said those who evacuated were dual citizens.
As the president said, so far, 74 U.S. citizens and family members arrived on the Egyptian side.
Kirby said the administration hopes that additional U.S. citizens will be able to leave Gaza in the coming hours and days, and the pace of Americans who want to leave will now move at an accelerated pace. Greg Clugston, the White House.
President Biden has also called for brief pauses in airstrikes by Israel against Hamas so that innocent civilians aren't harmed. Funding Israel in its battle against Hamas is the subject of much debate on Capitol Hill. The GOP-led House has a bill sending aid to Israel but cutting IRS funding and postponing funding for Ukraine. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says the House GOP's idea for funding Israel is stunningly unserious.
The Senate will not be considering this deeply flawed proposal from the House GOP. And instead, we will work together on our own bipartisan emergency aid package that includes aid to Israel, Ukraine, competition with the Chinese government, and humanitarian aid for Gaza, so much needed.
But House Speaker Mike Johnson says the House will pass the bill to get Israel emergency aid.
Israel doesn't need a ceasefire. Allies to cease with the politics and deliver support now. And that's what we're doing. House Republicans plan to do that. We're going to do it in short order, and it provides Israel the aid it needs to defend itself, free its hostages, and eradicate Hamas.
On Wall Street, the Dow up by 564 points. The Nasdaq rose 232. More at townhall.com.
Harry, God has chosen you to have a son.
The greatest story ever told is now an epic Christmas musical for the whole family.
I won the mother found. You are in danger, Mary.
Starring Fiona Paloma, Milo Manheim, Lecrae, Joel Smallbone, and Academy Award nominee Antonio Banderas.
This child, what is his name?
Jesus.
Journey to Bethlehem. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. In theaters everywhere November 10th. Soundtrack also available. Get tickets now at JourneyToBethlehem.com.
Don't Miss, the new movie by Dinesh D'Souza. Police State.
We have freedom of religion and freedom of speech.
MAGA Republicans threaten the very foundation of our republic.
Are we becoming a police state?
The government is trying to crush the conservative movement, our society, and our freedoms.
They define you as radical. How did we give the state this kind of power?
If they're coming for me, they're coming for you.
Police State. Buy it or stream it now at policestatefilm.net. policestatefilm.net.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First alert for Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A clear night, but a chilly one. Low down to 43. That's close to normal, though. But we'll be above normal in the afternoon, a high of 65. Sunshine to start, but turning cloudy, especially by the evening. But it is going to be dry for your Friday. And then Saturday, a high of 67. Mainly a dry day. Late evening, like around 10 o'clock and overnight. Watch for a chance of a shower. It's about a 20% chance Saturday night. But then it's dry Sunday and a high of 69. High near 70 by Sunday. How nice is that? That's the latest First Alert for forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Rodney and Jen Wallner and the entire Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Call them today at 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD. St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
It's time that everybody wake up and pay attention.
Live and local.
Recent criminal indictment of Donald Trump.
About the fourth one.
The fourth one.
The one he got the free gift with.
Lunch card.
I think it's a tote bag.
This is News Talk STL. This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Are you in need of any exterior home improvements, whether it is simply due to age of your home, wear and tear, or perhaps you got hit like we did back in the spring? Man, when that hailstorm rolled through, I keep talking about it because it was pretty dramatic. I mean, I've lived in the Midwest most of my life. I was in New York, as you all know. I've mentioned that a few times for like 10 years or so. But, I've been through a lot of Midwestern storms. Boy, do we get some doozies, right? I mean, but I don't know if I've ever seen hail this big. It was literally golf ball size hail. I always thought that was a joke, right? How can something be that big, Well, it was, and it was just as loud. It was like someone was dumping golf balls, not dumping, throwing golf balls at our siding, our roof, the entire exterior of our home, and we were like, this is not going to be good. Well, it wasn't until I called Eureka Contracting and Roofing. 636-938-ROOF. EurekaContracting.com. Rick Hinkson and the gang, they were out at our home, lickety-split. They helped take care of a bunch of our neighbors, too. The first thing they do is, and this seems like a simple thing, but it really wasn't because of the effect it had. They put a sign in our yard right away. They knew that because that kept all of the yahoos, the drive-by seat of their pants, and drive-by night yahoos from bothering us because we had a local company. Eureka Contracting and Roofing is here in the region. And yes, they're based in Eureka, but they work region-wide. They've got enough crew, enough staff, enough folks. They're really fantastic. And they took care of everything for us, right? So working with the insurance company, working with all the different contracting teams that had to come in, because it's different teams, right? Different people do the roof, different people do the gutters. So Eureka Contracting, they handled it all from soup to nuts. And now on the back end of it, they're handling all of the I call it post-production, the post-job processing, right? Because you get some, it's called recoverable depreciation. Don't worry about it. Eureka Contracting just takes care of it. They'll determine if your loss is insurable. They'll help you file the claim. They'll assist you from beginning to end. We are extremely satisfied. You will be as well. 636-938-ROOF, 636-938-ROOF, EurekaContracting.com, EurekaContracting.com.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
The more you remove voting from Election Day, the more opportunity you're offering for people to commit fraud.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I think the Democrats are so short-sighted in this tactic they have now to just cheat at any cost to win elections.
You're a lying dog-faced pony soldier. You said you were, but
Now you got to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you.
What are we doing wrong here? As a former leader in the House, I think you can put your finger on it. It's called leadership. We don't have it.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps.
The president believes that the supplemental request that we submitted contains 4 really critical national security urgent needs: Israel, Ukraine, our Indo-Pacific resourcing, particularly when it comes to manufacturing of submarines, and of course border security. All 4 are important. And the whole idea of an urgent supplemental is you're submitting what you think are urgent requests, and the president wants to see all of them honored, all of them acted on by Congress, all of them together. We wouldn't have submitted it that way if we didn't believe that they all weren't important and should be acted on together. The president would veto an only Israel bill. I think that we've made that clear.
All right, we're going to get back to crazy kooky Kirby in just a second. We'll keep that thought right there. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. This is 1019 94.1 News Talk STL, 5:08 in the PM Central Daylight Time here in the Heartland. It's probably a different time if you're somewhere else, right? You could be listening to us somewhere else, right? You can be listening to us everywhere else at newstalkstl.com. You can go directly to our website. You can hit the big play button, and you can listen to us online. Even easier, you can download our app. You should definitely do that. I listen to our app all the time, right? Because you know, I understand sometimes radio signals don't come in the best, and especially if you're traveling, they come in and out. Don't mess with any of that. Download the app. Connect it to your Bluetooth speaker on your bicycle, your motorcycle, your scooter, or in your car, right? And take us with you wherever you may travel to. We have the app for your iPhone or for your Android device. I don't know these Android people. They're kind of like Martians to me. I have an iPhone, which is what everyone should have, right? How do you feel about that, Joey?
You know, I've got sucked into the Google ecosystem. So I've got Google speakers, Google TVs, and I got a Google phone, which is an Android.
So you're one of those.
I'm one of those,
You and
yeah.
Columbo. You and Columbo are like that. I can see the similarities.
Yeah, it was driving me nuts when the Google speaker wouldn't actually respond when I told it to play 1019. So I emailed Google directly and got it fixed. That's how much it was bothering me.
Oh, my gosh. You got that fixed with Google?
Yeah, I didn't know if you're an Alexa person, but me, I had to get the Google
I have
ecosystem
Alexa.
in check.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Between you and I, though, we are covering all of our bases, right? Right? We are.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
We are consumers of this station, and we want to hear it whenever we want, on demand.
So, as Joey just told you, you can listen to it on the Google speakers. You can listen to it on your Android device. As I just told you, you can listen to it on your iPhone. You can listen to us on your Alexa. There are a million ways. You can watch us. A lot of people like to do that, too. I got a lot of stuff to do this segment. I have to do a speaker stump speech. I have to do a little housekeeping about an event we have next week. I have to say hello to all y'all. I have the Facebook page pulled up. I can only look at 32 different things at once, so I don't have all of our streaming platforms, but we do stream on a lot of different platforms. So different strokes for different folks, right? Many of you love Rumble. I love Rumble. That's great. I just by habit pull up Facebook. I'm just familiar with the platform. I need to do a little more rumbling, but we got Facebook on here, so a lot of you are on that. Rumble is great. You can listen to us on Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and so many other things. And I forgot to do something yesterday, so we're going to take a breath. And I forgot to ask Joey about the scary movie he watched on Halloween because he said he watched one.
Are you asking me now?
1 second.
I'm going to hold
on
on to
1
it.
second. Yes, hold on to that. So, all right, let me go over here. Let me go over to the attic. Okay, I just came back. And let me tell you about the debate watch party that we're having next week. Less than a week away is the third Republican presidential debate. And we're throwing a party for it. Why wouldn't you? Join us. Join News Talk STL. That's us. Americans for Prosperity, Missouri. Wonderful folks. These St. Louis young Republicans. And all of you, right? Friends and colleagues. It'll be like Old Home Week. Let's get together next Wednesday night at the Westport Playhouse, which is a fantastic venue. And if you haven't been there in a long time, you owe it to yourself to visit again. Just, you know what? If you can't stand Joey and me, just come for Westport Playhouse because that will deliver even though we may not. I'm teasing. Westport Playhouse is where we're going to have this debate. We're going to watch the debate on their magnificent. Joey, you tell me this big screen is like, I've seen it. I've been there for a performance. It's amazing, and it's incredibly high tech.
Yeah, I know it's taller than me, and it's as wide as a stage is. This thing is bigger than a house in my memory. So it'll be great to see in HD if anybody's got any tells on them, any of the candidates, if we can tell if they're lying, a little twitch or something.
We'll look for their tells. Vic Porcelli will look for their tells, and Larry Connors. Those guys know tells.
Those pokermen, yes.
Yes, they do. We will have free food, courtesy of Americans for Prosperity, Missouri, and Drunken Fish. Drunken Fish is right next door. It's an awesome restaurant. We'll also have a cash bar. We don't want you to get too hammered, maybe one or two. And we want you to hang out with us. We're going to do a little pregame with Mike Ferguson in the morning and that whole cast of characters. Chris Arps and I will skedaddle over to the Westport Playhouse right after our show. We'll probably get there about 6:30ish or so we might have time to say hi to you from the stage. Then, of course, we'll turn things over to the debate itself, which will be broadcast live on our station and all of our feeds that I just mentioned. So if you can't make it, you can be here with us in spirit, but we urge you to come. It's a ticketed event, but it's free. Okay, let me explain that. Because there are limited seats and because we need to prepare for having the correct amount of food, we need you to RSVP. You have to RSVP for this event, but it's free. So just jump on newstalkstl.com, newstalkstl.com, sign up for the event, put in there how many tickets you want. Please use all of them. We don't want any empty seats, and join us next Wednesday evening. There we go. Did all my housekeeping for that. All right. At 5:25, Larry Behrens, Communications Director for Power of the Future, host of Power Punch, heard right here on News Talk STL, Saturdays at 4, which is then followed by the Joey V Show featuring Todd Showalter. Oh, wait, maybe I got that backwards.
You're going to be even more confused this week because I dressed up as Todd. I
Did you?
Literally put on the uniform. I had a mullet wig. I had khaki shorts, Hawaiian shirt. Wait till you see the photos. You're going to think it's ridiculous.
Todd rocks the mullet like no one else can. I mean, on him it looks good. It really does.
I mean, his job is to get attention, and it's working.
It's working, absolutely. So the Right Mind Show featuring Todd Showalter, of course, with producer Joey V by his side. That, of course, is at 5. But before that, you got Power Punch at 4. What a great lineup. That's an awesome Saturday afternoon, evening lineup to help take you through your weekend. We're going to talk about this massive New Jersey. Guess what, folks? A wind farm failed. Who would have ever thought? Yeah, Larry and I think we predicted that about 7 or 10,000 times. Okay, so we're going to get to all that. Speaker stump speech before, but I have to go back to Halloween night. I sat down and made my poor wife watch my favorite movie that I like to watch on Halloween, which I talked about, which of course is the classic Bram Stoker's Dracula, featuring the cast of thousands, Gary Oldman as Count Dracul, Keanu Reeves playing Jonathan Harper, Winona Ryder, his fiancée, Anthony Hopkins playing the part of Van Helsing, the vampire hunter, and just so many more. So it's, you know what, it's an older movie now, but I think it holds up pretty well. Suzanne says it's a little campy. I thought it was enjoyable. I dig it. I dig the story. I read the book back in the day. So that's what we did. Joey, you watched something on Halloween. What was that?
The girl wanted to watch a really bad but fun horror film. So one that I've always wanted to check out is called Basket Case. It is insanely low budget, $35,000.
No way.
Made in 1982. And it is about these Siamese twins that get separated when they're young. But one is more like a little growth, and the one is a full-size human. And the parents hated the growth, so they cut it off. But the guy, when he grows up, he carries the little brother in a basket.
Oh, that's creepy.
And it kills people whenever it gets mad.
What?
Or gets jealous. Like the grown brother, he ends up liking a girl, and the little Siamese twin goes and attacks the woman. I mean, this thing is ambitious with its special effects, though. They've got stop motion. They've got the creature that you actually get to see, the kills. Oh, my goodness.
Whoa.
It is nuts, and I think you could check it out and be laughing at one moment and then grossed out in the next.
Okay.
Basket Case.
Basket
It was
Case.
free on Tubi. There's so many good, bad horror films on Tubi for free.
I wonder if that was ever featured on Mystery Science Theater 3000.
It seems like the one that it could. I mean,
Yeah.
it was so funny seeing this creature come to life.
That's hilarious. Yeah, it does sound hilarious and horrifying at the same time, which is the mark of a good horror film. So I was flipping around, Joey, on I don't know, Hulu or something. We have Hulu. I think that's what I was flipping around on, but it could have been something on Netflix. I don't remember, but I think it was Hulu. And so, of course, you know, on the night of the holiday, whatever that holiday might be, most of the networks try to run holiday type stuff. So, of course, we had Halloween scary movies on a ton of channels. So I'm like, all right, not that I'm going to sit down and watch any of these because I don't like the slasher films. They kind of freak me out. And I prefer the more sci-fi horror. Like, I'm into more like the space horror, like the Aliens. I love the Aliens movies. And yeah, there's a lot of blood, guts, and gore in that, but it's science fiction. So I'm like, well, there's cool aliens too, and predators and things like that flying around. And so I've watched. I think I've watched every Aliens movie. I think I've watched, and I've also watched the spin-offs, and we've talked about those. I've watched Prometheus, which I thought was really good, and there's been a couple others. So Joey, I'm flipping around, and they mainly have the slasher films on Halloween night, and they were featuring the Halloweens. Okay. I did not know, in addition to all the Halloweens that were made when I was a kid back in the 70s, that now they've remade a bunch of the Halloweens in the 2000s. And I didn't know that there was one where, I've never watched a Halloween movie all the way through because I just can't do it. Is it Mike Myers? Is he the Halloween guy?
Yeah.
Okay. Jason is in Friday the 13th, right?
Mm-hmm, Jason Voorhees.
So Mike Myers, I guess, has been killed a zillion times over, and he's been reincarnated or whatever. So he's in this 2018 remake of Halloween. And then I see that, what's her name? The Scream Queen is in there as well.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis, who's now an older woman.
Laurie Strode.
And I'm going, holy cow, we've all aged, I guess. But I didn't watch it because I didn't have time and all that. But does she, okay, I'm not spoiling this for anybody because this movie is now 5 years old. But have you seen that one? And does she like go badass and like does she take on Mike Myers? Is that the whole point of the movie?
I've not really kept up with this new reboot. They've rebooted it so many times.
I've lost track too.
The one that usually got a bunch of attention was the Rob Zombie ones. But these reboots are even after that. These have what is it? The funny guy from Vice Principals and Eastbound and Down.
Oh, that guy. He's great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Danny McBride.
And
his company. They're doing these horror film reboots. I think they were even behind the new Exorcist as well. So no, I haven't kept up. I know Laurie's back and she's got daughters and everyone has kids now. That's how a reboot usually goes.
So Jamie Lee Curtis, like the scene that I watched like a scene or two until I just couldn't take it anymore because I was curious to see what Jamie Lee Curtis was doing in this 2018 reboot of Halloween. And it seemed like the part I watched that she was like, she's like she's an older woman, but very, very much still, Jamie Lee Curtis is phenomenal and she's in great shape. And I just got the sense from what the thing she was doing. She was like in her kitchen and like she had like the kitchen counter. She had it like on a remote control, so it like slid open, and then she went down to the safe room. And I'm like, is she going down there to get her own chainsaws and axes? And I'm like, that would have been cool if she just went total like Mortal Kombat on Mike Myers. So maybe that was the premise of the movie. I don't know.
I did see that first reboot, that 2018 one, but the second two that came after that didn't get as good reviews.
Okay.
They kept getting diminishing returns, so I didn't keep up with them.
It's usually what happens.
It seemed like he was dead in that one, though.
Right.
Like they set the house on fire
Right.
when he was trapped in that panic room underneath the kitchen.
Yes, divide him into multiple pieces and send him in outer space. The other one that I like in that genre, in the horror genre, and they're cult. Oh, there's two of them. There's two cult classics that I love. They're not very good movies, but they have their moments.
Our favorite. Yeah.
They have their moments. So the Underworld series with Kate Beckinsale, okay? Maybe I like it, maybe because Kate Beckinsale is in latex. I'm just saying, maybe not. But she's a vampire, but she's a badass vampire, and she goes around like killing all the bad vampires and the bad werewolves. And her boyfriend is like a mutant vampire werewolf. I know I've already lost half the audience. They're like, what are you talking about? So I like that series, the Underworld series, okay? Rise of the Lycans and all that stuff. And then the other series I like, which is probably even worse, it's the zombie series with Mila Jovovich, Resident Evil. I think that series is hilarious.
Those have nothing to do with the games, is the complaint I always hear the most about those.
Right. But again, Mila Jovovich, who was in a movie, another cult classic, which was not really a horror movie, but she was in Fifth Element. Remember Fifth Element with Bruce Willis back in the day?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie was way, because it was made a long time ago. And again, the special effects and stuff were really good. The story is good. And Fifth Element featuring Bruce Willis and Mila Jovovich is just a cult classic. And I like saying her name, Jovovich. I learned how to say it. So there you go. There's movie review, science fiction, horror, such and so forth. And now we have to turn our attention apparently to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and all that because we're running those commercials. So
I think Eli Roth, who's known for making that torture porn movie Hostel, he's got a movie called Thanksgiving coming out.
Does he?
It's going to be
It's a horror movie?
Yeah, it's a horror movie called Thanksgiving. I think that
is it
was
just people sitting at their dinner table like annoying each other?
just so full, and then
Yeah.
they just tip over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was a fake trailer
Somebody
from
brings up
Grindhouse.
politics.
The Grindhouse movies that came
Okay.
out, they had fake trailers in between. I think that's one that's in the line of like Machete. That was a fake trailer.
Okay.
So Thanksgiving, look forward to that horror
There we
film.
go.
We'll watch that.
Absolutely, indeed. In between the Hallmark channels, between the new Hallmark Channel movies. All right, we've got to get now to the Speaker Stump Speech. As I promised you, I would tell you who is favoring the IRS, God help us, over Israel.
Listen to me, listen to me.
I'm very consistent. I'm a very stable genius.
It's time for the Speaker's Stump Speech, sponsored by Hanson's Tree Service at hansonstree.com.
Hat tip to my good friends at the Committee to Unleash Prosperity for inspiring today's Speaker Stump Speech. And thank you, as always, to our intrepid sponsors, Chad Hanson and the gang at Hanson's Tree Service. Committee to Unleash Prosperity is a newsletter, an email newsletter that, yes, you can get, and it's free. Stephen Moore, Dr. Art Laffer, Phil Kerpen. We've interviewed all of them. I don't know if we've interviewed Dr. Laffer, but definitely Stephen Moore and Phil Kerpen on our radio station many, many times on all of our shows. Brilliant fellows. They started putting this together during the COVID pandemic to push back against the tyranny. Now they address all sorts of topics, and they mainly point out the insanity of the Biden administration every single day. Biden favors IRS funding over Israel aid. There, I didn't bury the lead. Yeah, you knew it, right? You knew it was Biden favoring there. Of course Joe Biden would favor an ever-encroaching, ever-increasing government focus to his life versus daring to help the Israelis because of his leftist flank. Committee to Unleash Prosperity writing, yesterday we asked this question of our hotline readers. That's the name of their newsletter, the Committee to Unleash Prosperity hotline. Do you favor funding more IRS agents or more aid to Israel? It seems one of the few people in America who prioritizes the IRS expansion is the President of the United States of America, Joe Biden. In the June debt bill deal, back in June, Biden agreed to expand the IRS by $60 billion instead of $80 billion in the Inflation Acceleration Act. So thankfully, the House Republicans were able to at least strip $20 billion out of that monstrosity. But now he says that if there are any further cuts in his plan to supersize the IRS, he will veto Israel aid funding. So wait a minute. Joe Biden is going to put IRS G-men digging through your bank accounts and your pocketbooks over funding to Israel. There's the priorities of this bankrupt, morally bankrupt and literally bankrupt administration. This is a president who really has his priorities screwed up. Astonishingly, the best estimates are that 75% of Jewish voters chose Biden in the 2020 election. Come on, folks, time to wake up and smell the coffee. As Christian Daytalk reported, Washington Examiner Christian Daytalk, who's often on the Columbo and Katie show, he tweeted out, yes, Biden will veto House GOP's Israel IRS bill, White House says. Committee to Unleash Prosperity goes on. If Biden wants to veto his own listen to this insanity. If Biden wants to veto his own aid package to protect the most abusive agency of government, the IRS, let him. I agree with them completely. Finally, let me see here. I've got a little quote here. Here's what the House Republicans are suggesting we do. House Republicans have been determined to jettison the roughly $80 billion in IRS funding over 10 years contained in the Inflation Reduction Act that Democrats passed last year. The GOP lawmakers argue that the money will be used to hire an army of new agents to audit Americans, but the agency says it will be used to support operations, modernize customer service technology, and assist taxpayers. Nobody believes that. The package will the Republican package will repurpose $10 billion from fiscal 2024 and another $10 billion from 2025 to be used in non-defense areas, according to the White House. This provision does not appear in the text of the bill, but another source familiar with the deal said both sides have agreed to it. So, it would be nice if we could continue to cut the IRS and help the people of Israel. But you now see what this Biden administration is doing. While it's pretending to do all it can to help Israel, it has a leftist flank that wants two things. They want a ginormous, they want a multi-trillion-dollar funded IRS, forget about billions, to harass Americans, and they want to pretend to their leftist flank well, maybe not pretend. They want to give a wink and a nod to their leftist flank. Yeah, we're helping Israel out, but, we like that whole river to the sea chant, too. Yeah, that's really catchy. You guys keep that up. This Biden administration is definitely an administration that has its priorities all screwed up. And that's the Speaker Stump Speech for today. What is today? November the 2nd, 2023. Hey, we'll be back with lots more of the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, including speaking with Larry Behrens, Communications Director for Power of the Future. What happened to a million, maybe billion-dollar New Jersey wind farm that should serve as a warning to all Americans and to the world writ large? Larry will discuss that with us and lots more when we return on the Tim Jones and Chris Arps show, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First alert for Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A clear night, but a chilly one. Low down to 43. That's close to normal, though. But we'll be above normal in the afternoon, a high of 65. Sunshine to start, but turning cloudy, especially by the evening. But it is going to be dry for your Friday. And then Saturday, a high of 67. Mainly a dry day. Late evening, like around 10 o'clock and overnight. Watch for a chance of a shower. It's about a 20% chance Saturday night. But then it's dry Sunday and a high of 69. High near 70 by Sunday. How nice is that? That's the latest First Alert 4 forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
Subscribe and watch your favorite News Talk STL shows. Mike Ferguson in the morning, The Vic Porcelli Show, Columbo and Katie, Jones and Arps. Webcam streaming on Facebook, Twitter, Rumble. Subscribe and watch News Talk STL.
Well, guess where I was this afternoon for lunch? Yep, you guessed it. I was at Johnny's Hideout. Of course I was. You may have noticed I actually use my clients. I actually use their services. I go to their places, right? And that's why I'm able to talk so personally about them, because I love their products and services. And Johnny's Hideout is one of my favorite places, because who doesn't love food, right? Johnny's Hideout, not far from anywhere. Folks, I have been wont to say that no matter where you are in the St. Louis metro, it's less than 30 minutes from where you might be. I've gotten there in less than 30 minutes from downtown, and I wasn't even driving fast. Located just 10 minutes from 270 and Gravois. That's because there's big, giant, nice roads that are the roads that lead to Johnny's. It is the best and newest St. Louis sports bar and grill experience. I was sitting there today at the Speaker of the House table. Yeah, I got that little corner out there. It's very funny. It's very cute. Rick, Pogue, and Jake and the gang and Johnny were so kind to honor me with that, and I appreciate them very much. You can check it out next time you're there. I was sitting there, and I'm like looking around. I'm like, there's TVs freaking everywhere. It's a great place to watch a game, right? The Blues are back in action, right? You've got NFL Sunday Ticket. You've got college football. Johnny is going to be featuring the Mizzou game. He was telling me, I was meeting with Johnny because we're having a little party out there in December. Johnny said he's going to have the Mizzou game on. I think he said it's like a 2 o'clock or 2:30 game taking on Georgia, right? That's going to be fantastic. Right in the middle. What else are you going to be doing in the middle of the afternoon on Saturday? Go to Johnny's Hideout. Man, the food. Where to begin, where to end. I had the grilled buffalo chicken wrap today with a side of blue cheese dressing and the crack fries. Oh, they call them crack fries because they're so freaking addictive. But there's nothing illegal in there. Just lots of incredible Johnny Dow's seasoning. You can also get the famous Johnny Dow's chicken wings. You can get them dry rubbed with the crack seasoning, which is, the pepper and the salt and the special spices that Johnny puts together. Probably making you really hungry right now, so you should probably go to Johnny's tonight. It's going to be a beautiful night out there on the Sunset patio featuring the Sunset Stage. Lots of great live local music. Open 7 days a week. There's always something new and cool and happening at Johnny's Hideout. How do you find out that information? Simply go to jhideout.com. Check them out on Facebook, Johnny's Hideout STL. That's Johnny's Hideout in High Ridge. Yep, we'll see you there.
Is your family prepared for the financial burden of losing a loved one?
Are you aware of the cost of a funeral?
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial could help you qualify for lifetime permanent final expense insurance coverage with no medical exam required.
Just answer a few health questions, and once accepted, your rates never increase.
Do you have diabetes? High blood pressure?
Have you had a heart attack? A stroke?
No problem.
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial can help protect your legacy.
Call or text 314-866-8886. That's 314-866-8886.
To learn more about permanent lifetime final expense insurance coverage.
Benjamin Schaefer with Senior Memorial could help you qualify for immediate coverage by answering just a few health questions.
Call or text 314-866-8886 or learn more at memorialplans.com. That's memorialplans.com.
Policies underwritten by Senior Life Insurance Company, not available in all states.
This is Rob with St. Louis Bath and Renovation, and we'd like to let you know you don't have to maintain the grout in your home anymore. The grout on the floor or in your shower or bath area. How would you like zero grout in your bathroom? At St. Louis Bath and Renovation, we focus on grout-free options for your bathroom. If you hate cleaning grout, St. Louis Bath and Renovation, 314-477-6476. 314-477-6476. Give us a call.
This hour of Jones and Arps is brought to you by Stifel. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com. Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
The Reagan administration has proposed making airbags or automatic seatbelts mandatory for new cars. Critics urged immediate action. And finally, a federal report today predicted possible catastrophic warming of the Earth by the 1990s with the strong climate change. I'm Jessica Savage in New York. More news later on this NBC station.
So the world was supposed to completely implode in a fiery inferno in the 1990s. We're going to talk to our next guest about that. But I have a little addendum to my little Johnny's Hideout live read. If you head out to Johnny's Hideout tonight, the one and only Larry Connors USA. Larry will be out there on the patio. He will be smoking cigars, drinking some bourbon, and he may teach you a card trick or two. Right there, Joey?
Of course. He is a magician when it comes to making money with cards and then doing tricks.
Yeah, so the world-famous Larry Connors of formerly of TV fame, right? You saw him for decades here in the St. Louis Metro. And now he's on News Talk STL following yours truly, along with Chris Arps when Chris is here. Larry will be out there on the patio tonight, so you might want to check that out. All right, so Jessica Savage there, back in the 1980s, telling us that experts were warning everyone back at that time that we were going to explode into a fiery inferno of a fireball by the 1990s. Let's bring in our next guest to talk to him about that and lots more. Larry Behrens, who you hear here on News Talk STL every Saturday from 4 p.m., the host of Power Punch, and you hear him frequently throughout the week on many of our fine programs. Larry, good afternoon. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. Thanks for being here with us today.
Oh, Tim, so great to talk with you. And considering we're all dead, the show sounds fantastic.
Doesn't it really? I guess, Larry, if this is heaven, I guess it's not too bad. I've got producer Joey V here. I know you. We're good friends. It's not a bad place. But, Larry, doesn't that just prove, Larry, that when people on the news or even when they talk about the so-called self-proclaimed experts, nobody really knows what they're talking about when they're trying to make predictions about the climate on a planet that is 4+ billion years old, right?
It really is. Just open up your weather app and see what it's going to be like 10 days from now, and then 3 days from now, see how that's changed. That's how it is. And I'm not, begrudging any of the weather guys there. Don't send me your hate mail. But the fact of the matter is, these predictions that have repeatedly not come true, in the religious world, if a doomsday prophet is wrong, 50, 60 times, we stop paying attention to them. And yet, lo and behold, you throw a PhD after their names, and I guess they demand that we still give them credibility?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Larry, I was thinking about you and the fact that we were going to have this discussion today because over the last few days, I've been watching this really cool new Netflix series narrated by Morgan Freeman called Life on Our Planet Earth. And, Larry, it reminded me of one thing. The globe has sustained and survived some incredibly massive, traumatic, and dramatic temperature swings. You're talking global cyclones and typhoons and tornadoes and ice ages. And that was long before, Larry, there were human beings walking around or driving around in Chevy Suburbans, right?
It absolutely is. You know, they had to switch it to climate change, right? Because you heard there in the 1980s it was global warming, in the 1970s it was global cooling, and then they realized that the facts were not bearing out what they said, so they're just going to call it climate change. And now it literally applies to everything, right? If it rains really hard for 2 days, oh, that's climate change. If it's really sunny for 2 days, oh my gosh, climate change. If, you know, the mailman brings bills in the mail, I guess that's climate change too. It is literally everything. And that sounds like hyperbole, but I mean, you would be amazed at the things that mostly folks from the left are going to say, well, it's just that way because of climate change. And I mean, they must have John Kerry strapped to a chair with duct tape over his mouth right now, because I'm shocked he hasn't blamed the crisis in the Middle East on climate change.
I'm sure that's coming next. Larry, climate change is not so much of a scientific hypothesis as it has become a very wealthy and lucrative industry for certain people, hasn't it?
It has. And, you know, I know sometimes folks think I'm out on the fringe with this, but let's just be honest. When you look at those windmills, you look at those solar panels, you look at those EVs, let's just call it what it is. It is a subsidized scam. There is folks making money hand over fist with it right now, and it is costing each and every one of us. I mean, I don't drive an EV, but the fact that I'm just a taxpayer means I now own an EV. There was a study came out last week, and we talked about it on the show, that it shows that the price of that EV that is already high when you look at it on the lot, the price of actually making it could be double. The taxpayers are taking on at least half of that price before that EV even gets to the lot. So think about that, you know, $100,000 F-150. That can really cost $200,000 to make, but we're already on the hook as taxpayers, thanks to Joe Biden, for half of that, and they're still not selling. It is an insane system that is being brought up so that we can go down a failed road that has literally never worked anywhere.
All right, Larry, let's talk about some of those products, EVs, windmills, solar panels, and more, because that'll lead directly into one of the top headline stories of the week. Massive New Jersey wind failure should serve as warning, and I know you all at Power of the Future are all over this. So, Larry, first of all, let's talk about these windmills. Larry, there is what people don't realize, whether you're talking about an electric vehicle, whether you're talking about solar panels, whether you're talking about windmills, isn't there a massive amount of fossil fuel and fossil fuel energy that has to be utilized to create these things and, yes, to even maintain and run them once they have been established?
Yeah, it is absolutely true. There's massive amounts of concrete. There are tons of steel, which, you know, no matter how much the greenies say it, there has not yet been a scientific process where we can create steel without the use of coal. And so if you want to get rid of coal, then you're going to have to get rid of your windmills as well. And then that's before we even talk about the petrochemical lubricants. You know, those windmills have to turn, and they have to turn, you know, hopefully forever. I mean, obviously, they stop when the wind doesn't blow. But that takes, I mean, no joke, thousands of gallons per windmill to get that thing turning and going. And so, yes, if you're going to eliminate fossil fuels, then you're going to have to eliminate these windmills as well. And that's before, as you point out, we even talk about the just financial quagmire that is this whole industry.
All right, so they're not that green, as we've just established. And Larry, you know what? It would be, and you know what? It would be one thing if we were harvesting, creating, engineering, and designing all of these components for these electric vehicles or these windmills here in the U.S. But Larry, the additional dirty secret is, isn't it true that most of the components for the windmills, for the electric cars, for the solar panels, they're not coming from the U.S. There's no U.S. product. There's no U.S. labor. There's no U.S. jobs. And in many cases, aren't they coming from places like China and beyond?
Yeah, they absolutely are. China has, for decades now, they looked at the world market and said, we need to dominate with something. And they realized we have what are called these rare earth minerals, you know, lithium and nickel and so on and so forth. And they said, we need to get the planet addicted to these products. And lo and behold, that was the same time the green agenda starts to really take off and say, hey, we need these solar panels. Hey, we need these batteries for these cars. Hey, we need these windmills. And it just so happens they take massive amounts of these metals. And we had a leader of China in the 1990s saying, we are going to become the OPEC of rare earth minerals. And in fact, they are. 90% of the rare earth minerals that go into these products originate from China. No matter how much people try to move around that fact, it is China that is benefiting when you buy solar panels. I mean, just look at, if you have access to solar panels anywhere, take a look at where they're from. They're going to say made in China, or they're going to say a country near China because they threw a whole bunch of tariffs on them. And so these Chinese companies just opened up a factory in the Philippines. They opened up factories in Vietnam. They opened up factories elsewhere so that they're still made in China. They're just assembled. The final assembly takes place in that country so they can get around tariffs. And so it is just a huge benefit to the Chinese Communist Party. And do you think that they are working within the same human rights and environmental conditions that we would here in the United States? No, of course not. But you have to pay a premium for a terrible product that is sourced by communists. That is what Joe Biden has decided our energy future is going to be.
And the pièce de résistance, Larry, is the fact that they don't work, right? So in their creation, they're not green. In their operation, they're not green. They don't do much of anything for the U.S. economy or U.S. small businesses. And then, Larry, when you go through all that and you create these things and you ship them over here and you put them up and you plant them off the shore of New Jersey, they fail. Tell us about what happened there.
Yeah, and in this case, they didn't even get to plant them very much. And so it was a couple of years ago. You have to understand, and it'll take me a little while, but I'll try to be succinct with it. The governor of New Jersey is just a green zealot. He and Joe Biden and Gavin Newsom and several other greenies across the country have tried to push their states into adopting this failed energy. And so he put out a contract and gave it to a large Danish windmill company. It was in April 2022 that he said, this company's the greatest. We're going to be on the future to this. And then it started to happen. They started to realize, you know what, this is going to be really expensive, more expensive than we said. Hey, it's going to be actually a lot more expensive than we said. Hey, you know, those tax credits that you gave us that were supposed to go back to ratepayers in New Jersey, we're going to have to keep those to the tune of $1 billion worth of tax credits that were supposed to go to the ratepayers. And so those bills went up in New Jersey. And then as if to, a perfect trick or treat, Halloween night, the company announces, even with all the incentives Joe Biden gives us, and even with all the incentives that Governor Murphy gives us, we're not going to be able to make this financially viable. We pull out. The company pulled out. And so now New Jersey ratepayers are left holding the bag on what was, when it was announced, the largest windmill project in the world. And it is never going to get built. Now, Murphy is saying, oh, the company's terrible, just completely contradicting himself. And they're going to be lucky to claw back maybe 20 cents on the dollar from what they lost in throwing all this money. And so it is just an absolute horrific bait and switch with this whole industry. And that's indicative of what we're seeing everywhere. Wind is losing its power, no pun intended. Solar is coming from China and is not really working out because the inflation that Joe Biden has caused prices to go up everywhere. And lo and behold, even with all these subsidies and all these taxpayers and, I don't call it the red carpet, the green carpet laid out for them by the media, they still cannot make it financially viable, and these companies are pulling back. It is something that as you dismantle reliable and affordable power plants, and you say, don't worry, that windmill's going to be there, now they're going to be stuck, and it's going to do more than just cost a whole lot of money. They have to worry about where their power is going to come from.
A true taxpayer boondoggle indeed. Speaking to Larry Behrens of Power of the Future, powerofthefuture.com, host of Power Punch, heard every Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. here on News Talk STL. Larry, do you have any thoughts as to who you might, what topics or folks you might be speaking with this Saturday?
Oh, we're definitely going to be talking about we're going to delve real deep into what's going on in New Jersey. And you know what? We're going to talk a little bit about Israel and the Hamas situation, and maybe just point out that the fact that all the same people who are anti-Israel are also the people who wanted us to have a Green New Deal. I'm sure that's just coincidence, though.
I'm sure it is indeed. Well, we'll definitely be listening along with the rest of all of our listeners. Larry, thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. It's always entertaining, informative, and incredibly fun.
Mr. Speaker, I appreciate it. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too as well. Larry Behrens with Power of the Future. Check him out, powerthefuture.com, at Power of the Future on Twitter. All right, got to get to a final break. My goodness, I'll make sure you're up to speed on all the headlines that you need to know before we hand you off to Larry Connors USA. It's 5:46 in the p.m. Be back right after this. Stay right there. This is 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Welcome home.
Made in St. Louis for St. Louis. It's News Talk STL.
I make this pledge to you today. I will never, ever ride a bicycle.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
First alert for Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A clear night, but a chilly one. Low down to 43. That's close to normal, though. But we'll be above normal in the afternoon, a high of 65. Sunshine to start, but turning cloudy, especially by the evening. But it is going to be dry for your Friday. And then Saturday, a high of 67. Mainly a dry day. Late evening, like around 10 o'clock and overnight. Watch for a chance of a shower. It's about a 20% chance Saturday night. But then it's dry Sunday and a high of 69. High near 70 by Sunday. How nice is that? That's the latest First Alert 4 forecast. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
On the next,
Larry Connors, USA.
Israel sending missile boats into the Red Sea to defend the southern approach to the nation from any Iranian-backed terrorist rebels operating from Yemen.
Larry Connors, USA. Now, weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL.
Do you live in West St. Louis County? Then you can get West News Magazine delivered free to your home just by asking for it. West News Magazine is the only print source for the political, school, business, and sports news happening in your hometown. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe or pick up a free copy at all area Deerbergs and Schnuck stores. West News Magazine. Anybody who wants it gets it. Anybody who gets it wants it. Subscribe for free today. Simply visit westnewsmagazine.com/subscribe.
Hey, Columbo here with a great offer from the cleaning pros at Zero Res. Just mention the Columbo special when you book a cleaning in November, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129 plus $50 off an air duct cleaning. We trust Zero Res because they're simply the best when it comes to cleaning any surface in your home, and they stand behind every cleaning with their gotta love it guarantee. Just remember to mention the Columbo special when you call 314-474-2020 or book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
Hi, it's Todd Showalter along with my buddy Joey V from The Right Mind Show. Say hi, Joey.
No thanks.
Join us every Saturday at 5 p.m. when we put the fun in our dysfunctional world. Want to add anything, Joey?
Oh, no thank you.
Plus, exciting guest and King Kirby from DiscountCoffee.com. Take us out, Joey.
Get Jim Modulin to do it.
Putting the fun in our dysfunctional world. It's The Right Mind Show with Todd Showalter. Saturday afternoons at 5 on News Talk STL.
Hello, I am State Treasurer Vivek Malik. There is a program in my office that allows you to save for your loved one's education. The Most 529 program helps families save for K-12, college, trade or technical schools. Contributions to most 529 accounts grow tax-free and are eligible for a state tax deduction of up to $16,000. Celebrate this holiday season by giving to your child's education. Learn more at MissouriMost.org.
Sponsored by the Missouri State Treasurer's Office.
This hour of Jones and Arps brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
So you're saying that you're saying that they're paying their fair share is what you're saying?
No, I'm asking what percentage is a fair share?
Their fair share, the same, if a third of my money is going to taxes, then I think a third of their money should be going to taxes. It does. Well, it does.
I'm trying to understand because you realize the effective tax rate on the poor is less than it is on the rich, right?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not the poor. I'm very close to that line, but I'm not the poor.
Okay, so the effective tax rate on the middle class is less than it is on the rich, correct? What fair share would you like?
Apparently, it's not too hard to stump Cori Bush. That's Cori Bush. That is a congresswoman who doesn't know Econ 101. She doesn't know. She's all angry and upset about the unfairness, about the regressive tax code that we have, but she has no idea actually what's in the tax code. Yeah, disturbing. That was Cori Bush. Can't answer simple questions. She's just a pontificator. She's just an activist. She's a fake political public figure because she's just playing one, right? But she knows nothing about actually doing the job. Welcome back to the Tim Jones and Chris Arps Show. We're doing the job here with all of you all, 1019 941 News Talk STL. I said I was going to do all these things earlier in an earlier segment, and I ran out of time to do one. I said I was going to say hi to all of you all on the Facebook page. We got Scotty on there, Lisa joining us today, Amy as well, all the ladies. And let's see, we got Lisa on there. Lisa's chatting up a storm there. She's talking about horror movies. That's funny. Alexander is on there as well, and everybody's having a really rockin' rollin' time. Let's see, what did let's see. Lisa said something really funny. Oh, she says, my husband has a collection of horror movies. Some of them are obscure and atrocious. So there you go.
She had seen that movie Basket Case that I was talking about, that crazy horror film about Siamese twins getting cut apart.
Yes.
And she hated it. Her husband forced her to watch it, and now she's mad at me.
Yes, she is, of course. As all the women do get, right, Joey? Yes.
She said if anything happens to him, that she'll sell me his horror DVDs.
Oh, boy. Hopefully nothing happens to him.
I don't know.
Dun,
it's
dun,
a pretty good deal.
Hello, all you all. Thank you so much for joining us today on the Facebook stream, the Rumble stream, Twitter, YouTube, listening to us at 1019 941 or online at News Talk STL, the apps, the Alexa or Google speakers. We are everywhere that you are, right? In any form, right? Because so many people these days. So Jeff Allen, who's always got these obscure radio stats, like at the drop of a hat, right? I don't know how he keeps all that information in his head. But, it's kind of like some people like sports. Some people know golf like me. I can tell you about dinosaurs because I was going to be a paleontologist when I was growing up. My parents said, yeah, you need to go to law school instead. And then Jeff Allen, right, with the radio. And so one thing I learned from him that I've kept in my noggin, because I think it's really amazing, is that, Jeff reads all the industry periodicals, and he said, as of this year, so even though we've gone to all these other platforms, right, there's all these things that pull at our time, right, there's satellite, and there's on-demand, and there's, this, that, and the other thing that you can listen to. He said people still, 80% of Americans at some point during their day listen to local radio for something, right? And you think, at first blush, I think people who I tell that to are like, that's not possible. I don't listen to radio. And I'm like, well, really? You never listen to the radio? Well, I just listen to it for the news, weather, and the sports. It's like, all right, so you do listen to the local radio. Yeah, I guess I do. So, some people go and just get their sports news. Some people get their weather. Some people want local news. Some people want the international and the national news and analysis and commentary like we provide here. Actually, we provide all those things. We do everything from the international. We sometimes do the supernatural, all the way down to the local, right? So we're your one-stop shop. That's why you should listen to us every day. So anyway, 80% of Americans listen at some point. They turn on their radio or their device. Let's just get to my second point here. And they listen to radio. Out of that 80%, Joey, 50% of those listeners listen on something other than an actual radio. And that makes sense, doesn't it? And that's why we have the availability to listen to our station on a zillion platforms other than 1019 and 94.1.
I saw some crazy stats that Nielsen just put out saying in St. Louis, if you were to just look and see how many radio listeners there was at any given minute, if you were to just check the numbers, there'd be at least 66,000 people. And that's not the same people throughout the day. Just at any moment, there's like 66,000 radio listeners in St. Louis alone just listening to the radio. And that seems like a gigantic number. St. Louis loves their radio.
We do. And as Joey said, that would just be a snapshot. And you can imagine,
term, yep.
Yeah, you can imagine over the course of a day, there's probably over 100,000, maybe a couple 100,000 people that listen to the radio, right? The cumulative listeners versus the snapshot in time, right? That's probably an even bigger number. Because think about it. Even though I live and breathe radio and media in general, when I'm not listening to the radio, I'm watching TV. When I'm not watching TV, I'm listening to the radio. Sometimes I'm doing both. Sometimes I'm literally doing both at the same time. So one of my favorite things is, whether I'm at home or I've got this little office near my home, one of my favorite things is that when I am by myself and it doesn't matter what I've got on, I can crank things up as loud as possible. I will put on when I'm working during the day. So I'm working on my laptop or my computer. I've got the television on, the sound off, and I've got News Talk STL on a streaming device. And I bet you I'm not that unusual, right? Because if you're in a home office or something of that sort, it's very easy to do that, right? So what I do is I generally have one of the business networks on because I like to watch the stock market during the day. So a lot of times I have Fox Business on, but I'll either put the closed captioning on or the sound off, whatever. But I'm mainly watching the tickers and I'm mainly watching the guests to see if there's somebody interesting that comes on. And if there's somebody interesting, I'll put the volume up. In the meantime, I've got News Talk STL streaming on a streaming device. And then I'm working on my computer. So, yeah, I'm probably causing myself to have adult ADHD, but, who doesn't these days? So, I think that's just a little lesson of how you can be fully informed throughout the day like we are. We drink from a fire hose, and I know you all enjoy doing that as well. My goodness, it is 5:57, which means we got to wrap things up and get the heck out of here. One last thing I want to tell you. I have a whole pile of stuff I didn't get to. So check this out. This was big news today. Rhino U.S. House Representative Ken Buck, that's my name for him, but he is a Rhino. He announced today he won't be running for re-election in 2024. This guy is a thorn in the side of Donald Trump and honestly, of most House Republicans. I'm glad to hear he's not running for re-election. Praise God. He said it's because it's about insidious narratives about the 2020 election. Put on your big boy pants. What a loser. Don't be a loser. Be a winner. All right, 5:57 in the AM. We're going to turn you over to Larry Connors, USA. We still live in the best country on the face of the earth. Hug your loved ones close, and join us tomorrow when we're back. 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL. Well, it's fall, y'all. Time to give Hanson's Tree Service a call this fall. 636-379-1830. 24/7, always available at hansonstree.com. Fall is the perfect time to spruce up and beautify your landscape beds with that fantastic organic mulch in bulk from Hanson's. What else should you do? How about clear out all the overhanging trees, get rid of all the old stumps, generally clean up the homestead as we head towards Old Man Winter. They're standing by to help you today. 636-379-1830 or 24/7, always available at hansonstree.com. hansonstree.com.
Hi, I'm Jen Wallner.
And I'm Rodney Wallner with the Wallner Home Selling Team at Berkshire Hathaway.
Hey, Rodney, how do you sell your home for top dollar?
That's easy. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
What if I want a flexible commission rate?
Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
When's the best time to sell your home?
Right now. Call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
For all your real estate needs, call the Wallner Home Selling Team at 314-810-SOLD.
That's 314-810-SOLD.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Then here's a great idea. Donate your car and help veterans and their families.